Hey everyone, good afternoon. This is County Executive Pat Ryan. Thanks for taking the time out of your day to join us. Today we're going to talk about the COVID situation, which continues to be overall good, holding steady. And then we're also going to talk about what starts this weekend on Saturday, which is early voting, which is the beginning of a 12-day process of ending on November 3rd, of course. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up there and what we've done to make sure that voting is accessible and safe and of course, democratic, small d democratic. So starting with COVID by the numbers, we are at a total cumulative case number of 2437 since the beginning of the pandemic. And you can see that's out of over 113,000 total tests. Thankfully, again, we continue to see the fatality number holding at 95 and the recovered number continuing to go up, now at 2159. So all those high level numbers continue to be encouraging and show that we are continuing to hold steady right around where we've been the last several months, thankfully. In terms of hospitalizations and the trend line there, you can see, and we've talked about this, a slight uptick in the hospitalization numbers over the last few weeks. We remain where we were on Tuesday, which is 8 total hospitalized in Ulster County with COVID, one of those being on an ICU and requiring ventilator. So that, of course, is serious, not only for those 8 individuals, but also as an indicator of a slight increase in hospitalizations that we've talked about for a few weeks now. Thankfully, that has not gotten worse, but it also hasn't gotten better. In terms of active cases across the county, we're still right around the same level we have been for the last week or two, high 100s. We're at 183 active cases to be exact. Again, slightly up from the bottom point where we were approaching 100, but as you can visually see on the graph, much, much, much better than the worst of this at the end of April and into early May. In terms of the most critical metric for looking at reemergence and any potential clusters, overall good news here, looking at the number of new infections in the county and the new infection rate. In the last 48 hours, we've had 1,557 tested, 1,557, with 17 new positives over the last 48 hours. So that puts us at just over 1% new infection rate in the last 48 hours, and over the 1 week period, we're still under 1%. If you remember, on Tuesday, we were well under 1% over the previous 96 hours. So we're still right around that 1%, which is our goal, to continue to maintain it there. I think as we head deeper into the fall and the winter, and people coming more indoors and more going back to school, it is almost certain that the numbers at certain points will go up. And again, it's really about how do we react when we see the beginnings of the embers of a fire, so that we quickly detect them, surge resources there, do our testing and tracing and isolation, and make sure that we contain it as a small thing rather than allowing it to spread and ultimately potentially get to a community spread situation, which is the goal, of course, that we're all working to avoid. So we're on track for that and continuing to see that in the numbers to avoid that. In terms of hospital capacity going forward, we remain in good shape in that regard. More than adequate capacity on hospital beds, ICUs, and ventilators. And again, currently at 8 individuals, one of whom is in an ICU bed. I think you all know the next part here. How do we keep this where it is? We talked last update on Tuesday about some of the proactive steps that we're taking as a community, as a government across all levels, in terms of our school rapid response plan, our mobile testing, and preliminary planning for vaccine distribution when that happens, so that we're remaining proactive on all of those big moving pieces. Of course, we continue to maintain robust testing capacity. We're still testing anywhere between 500 to over 1,000 individuals. We tested over 1,000 in the last 24 hours. So that's a critical part of our work that we continue to keep going. And at the individual level, of course, this is really where the rubber meets the road and where we'll either keep things where they are or not. And that comes down to those three fundamental pieces that each of us at the individual level has to continue to do: wearing masks, maintaining social distancing, and washing hands and using hand sanitizer. Those things are, as I always say, relatively easy, relatively painless, and have a huge return on taking those actions, not just for yourself and your immediate family and friends and loved ones, but for the whole community. We know how intertwined this is and interconnected it is. So please, even if you feel safe or at less risk, keep in mind that there are others that need your help to stay safe as well. So those are really the key updates on COVID. I hope that we can continue to keep things here. I'm optimistic that we can, as long as we all continue to take this seriously, really retain and that vigilance and remain serious about this, which it obviously still very much is, unfortunately. The other thing that I wanted to talk about is a big event coming up. We are now, believe it or not, we are 12 days away from official election day, which is November 3rd. But more importantly, in some ways, we are about 36 hours away from early voting. So relatively new to New York State is this idea that you don't have to do it on November 3rd. And this year, of course, that's even more important and helpful given the challenges of the pandemic. So early voting in Ulster County starts this Saturday. Saturday, October 24th, is the first day of a week plus of early voting. So early voting in the county, as you can see on your screen, runs from Saturday, October 24th, all the way through Sunday, November 1st. Then on Monday, November 2nd, we'll kind of reset the board and move and prepare for the normal election day voting that'll happen across the county on November 3rd. Given the pandemic, given so many of the challenges and uncertainties around early voting, or excuse me, mail-in and absentee voting, I am strongly encouraging every resident of the county to, if you can, to do early voting as the easiest and lowest risk way to make sure that you vote and everybody votes. What this lets us do is really space out the 180,000 people of the county over multiple days and across 5 early voting sites, which we'll talk about in a minute. It'll allow you as an individual to pick a time and a place that works for you and to show up at a location that will likely not have big crowds, and that we've also done a lot of work to make sure is healthy and safe, and I'll talk about that as well in a minute. So remember, there are multiple ways that you can vote. Of course, you can vote on Election Day. You can vote absentee by mail, but I highly encourage everyone, and I know myself and my wife and I are all planning to vote early in person. We're actually going to vote this weekend coming up. So in terms of where that happens, here's a map of our 5 Ulster County early voting locations, spread pretty well throughout the county. One in Woodstock at the Community Center, one in Midtown Kingston at the Midtown Neighborhood Center, the New Paltz Community Center, the American Legion in Highland, and the Ellenville Library at the Community Room in Ellenville. So those 5 locations are open. There's different hours, so the easiest way to check those hours and to check these locations is all on one website, which is voteulster.com. voteulster.com. That has all the information you need. The other information that's on that site at voteulster.com is a lot of answers to any questions you might have about, is it safe from a COVID perspective to go and do early voting. Our great team at the Board of Elections and all of the staff and volunteers have put in a ton of work and planning to make sure that we are keeping polling sites safe. You can see here, and these are just some of the measures: sanitation stations at entry, gloves and masks and hand sanitizer, which will be enforced by all the workers. Staff will be maintaining that cleanliness throughout the day. Pending weather, we'll have doors and windows open for circulation and proper ventilation. And there absolutely will be a strict policy of serious enforcement of mask wearing and distancing that all the staff at the polling sites have been trained on and are ready to make sure is enforced. So everyone should feel confident and comfortable that you will be able to go and vote both on election day and early in a way that will honor the fact that we are in the midst of a pandemic. But I honestly think if there's many things we learned in the last 7-8 months, but one of them is how important it is that we have at every level good, competent government that we think will take care of us and support our values and our goals. And so you have a chance to make sure that that continues in this election period. The other thing that we wanted to announce, we know getting to some of the early voting sites could be a challenge. We are only able to have 5 of them in the county. So we've worked with our UCAT bus service to make sure that we are supporting and adjusting our UCAT routes so that if you need to get to a voting site and don't have a vehicle or another way to get there, at least 4 of our 5 early voting sites will be accessible via UCAT. We'll also be putting the details of that up on our website, so don't let getting a ride be a barrier. And if you're having problems with that, you can call UCAT or you can call our Recovery Service Center, which always has information about all the critical things happening in the county. And we'll share that number at the end like we always do. The final thing that I wanted to hit on with early voting and elections, we know there's been a lot of talk and concern about not just the health-related safety, but as always, ensuring the physical safety of our polling sites. And I just want to reassure everyone in the county that our Board of Elections and working with the whole team, including our sheriff, have put a plan in place to make sure that all of our early voting sites and our voting sites across the county are also secure and safe from a physical security perspective. So we do have all those plans and procedures in place and have thought through both the likely and the worst case scenario, God forbid, in terms of what we need to do to keep our polling sites safe. So overall, again, the message here that I want everyone to hopefully take and also pass on is, yes, this is a exceptional time and a sort of scary time to do lots of things, from even the simplest grocery shopping or going for a walk. And I want to make sure that everyone knows that there's been a lot of work and preparation and thought that's gone into making sure that you and everybody can vote safely, and highly encourage everyone to please do that. As we all know, that is truly the energy and the fuel that makes our democracy work. So please vote. Again, if you ask me which option, I would say vote early in person for all the reasons that we talked about. The last thing to just throw up here, I know this was a lot of information. If you want more information or have questions or just need someone else to go over this with you, here is where you can go. Once again, you have a few different options. You can call the Ulster County Board of Elections for more information about early voting, absentee mail-in voting, or of course voting on election day. And for those of you internet savvy folks, all of this information is online at voteulster.com, voteulster.com. And if possible, just one more time, I want to throw up the schedule of the days of early voting and the times. This information is up on the website, but I just want to throw that up there one more time in case anybody wants to screen grab this as well. These are the Ulster County early voting dates and times, and you can see there are several periods there in the middle of next week where there are evening hours. So if you work early, there's a time for you, and it also includes weekend periods. So our goal is to make sure that this is as widely accessible to as many people as possible. I want to thank our Board of Elections for their work, their continued work. They have more work ahead as they get into the final stretch here. But we've asked a lot and put a lot of new demands on them, and they've really stepped up. And I just want to thank our Board of Elections and election commissioners and all the staff there. Thank you for the work you've put in and the work you're about to put in. That will be our segue to the thank you portion of our update. As we always do, we have a non-exhaustive list of folks, and the great staff at the Board of Elections are another example of folks who, in the past, we never thought of as on the front lines of putting themselves at risk, but we had a lot of volunteers and paid poll workers step up this year, knowing that there is an increased risk for them, but committed to making sure that we do that important work of running a free and fair and effective election process. So thank you to them. Thank you to all of our frontline workers, from healthcare to first responders, delivery and grocery workers, and so many others. We appreciate what you've done and what you're continuing to do. And know that we're all continuing to work together. As a reminder to that end, I did on Tuesday remind folks that tonight at, I believe it's 6 p.m., the Ulster County Chamber of Commerce has their Business Recognition Awards to recognize our local businesses and entrepreneurs and business leaders for their work throughout this pandemic. So if you get a chance, tune in for that. And there's also an award going to all of the people of Ulster County and the hometown heroes that have gotten us through this crisis, which is a really nice way to once again pay tribute to all of you that have been so critical during this period. So on that note, thanks to all of you for watching. If you have any questions about critical services, as always, you can call our Recovery Service Center as well. That number is on the screen, and it's also 845-443-8888, or you can send us an email or go right to the website, covid19.ulstercountiny.gov. As always, thank you to the Radio Kingston team. Thank you to Diane and Manuel. And we will next see you on Tuesday at 2 p.m. I hope by that point all of you will have already done your early voting, and we can celebrate that. And in the meantime, enjoy a beautiful day today, hopefully a beautiful fall weekend. Stay safe and healthy and remain resilient through this, and we'll see you soon.